You've probably heard the whispers. A recession is coming, they say. But what if I told you that a recession is just the tip of the iceberg? What's lurking beneath the surface is far more dangerous. And the scariest part, most people aren't prepared for it. Think about it. While everyone is focused on the usual signs of economic downturn, the real threat is something much bigger. It's the kind of event that catches you off guard, like a storm that seems to come out of nowhere. And the ones who will suffer the most are those who didn't see it coming. Imagine waking up one morning, expecting another regular day, and finding that everything you thought was stable is crumbling. People always assume they have more time, more options, more security. But history has shown us time and time again that overconfidence can be deadly. It's like sitting on a ticking time bomb, only this one doesn't have a countdown. You just don't know when it'll go off. The question is, are you ready for what's coming? Because if you're not, the consequences could be far worse than a simple economic slowdown. What's coming next isn't just about surviving. It's about making sure you're prepared for a reality most people haven't even considered. This is your wake-up call. If you're looking for a quick fix or hoping that things will just blow over, think again. The time to act is now. But first, leave your like here and subscribe to our channel. This encourages us to continue producing more videos like this. The economic landscape in the United States is surrounded by uncertainty. Many experts, including CEOs of major corporations, are predicting a recession soon. This isn't just speculation. Interest rates are rising, and while some believe we're heading for a soft landing, there are clear signs of turbulence ahead. A prime example? The Federal Reserve itself, which has raised rates at one of the fastest paces in recent history, can't guarantee this will prevent an economic slowdown. As rates climb, it becomes more expensive for companies to borrow, and that slows growth. If that's not enough, think about consumers. High inflation has already eaten away at the purchasing power of many, and now, with credit card debt piling up, people are left asking, how am I going to pay the bills at the end of the month? The answer isn't always clear, and while unemployment is still low, this calm might just be the calm before the storm. The key here is to keep a close eye on the market's next moves. Now, imagine being in a CEO's shoes, making critical decisions while market data points in all directions. It's this mix of uncertainty and conflicting signals that is creating an environment where only the most cautious survive. And that's the reality. While some rush to say everything is under control, the truth is that the US economy has never been so close to a potential recession. But is a recession really the biggest thing to fear? The US stock market might look like it's thriving, but a closer look reveals a different story. The so-called Magnificent Seven. Companies like Apple, Microsoft, and Tesla are carrying most of the weight. These 7 tech giants make up nearly 28% of the entire S&P 500, which means their performance is skewing the numbers. Without them, the rest of the market is struggling. While the S&P 500 shows a year-to-date gain of around 12%, remove the Magnificent Seven, and you'll see the index is actually down. This imbalance is alarming, but not everyone notices it. For the average investor, this paints a false sense of security. People see the S&P 500 performing well and assume that the entire market is doing fine. But in reality, the success of these 7 companies hides the struggles of smaller and mid-sized firms. Take a moment to consider this. While Apple and Microsoft continue to break records, small-cap companies in the Russell 2000 index are showing minimal growth or even losses. That's a stark contrast that investors need to pay attention to, especially when diversifying portfolios. Here's where the problem lies. If one or two of these big players stumble, the entire market could see significant fallout. It's like building a house of cards, where the foundation is held up by just a few supports. If you're investing heavily in tech giants, it might feel like you're winning for now. But what happens when the market shifts? Diversifying beyond these dominant players is key to long-term success, something every smart investor should keep in mind. And speaking of shifting markets, let's look at the rising consumer debt situation. Consumer debt in the US has hit an all-time high, and it's creating a major financial strain. Credit card debt alone has surpassed $1 trillion, and that's not even the most concerning part. What really stings is the interest. Credit card interest rates are at their highest levels ever, making it harder for people to pay off what they owe. Picture this. Someone with $10,000 in credit card debt could be paying upwards of $1,500 a year in interest alone. That's money that could have gone towards savings, investments, or even just keeping up with bills. What's worse is that these interest rates keep climbing as the Federal Reserve raises rates to combat inflation. Every time the Fed hikes, it feels like consumers are hit with a double whammy. The cost of everything goes up, and so does the cost of borrowing. For those living paycheck to paycheck, it becomes nearly impossible to get ahead. Imagine trying to pay down debt when your monthly minimum payments keep increasing, not because you borrowed more, but because interest rates are out of control. It's a vicious cycle that's hard to escape. This surge in debt is a ticking time bomb. When people can't afford to make their payments, defaults rise, and the ripple effect spreads throughout the economy. And it's not just individuals who are struggling. Corporations are feeling the pinch too, which leads us to an even bigger concern: corporate debt and what happens when these companies can't refinance at lower rates. Corporate America is sitting on a mountain of debt, and it's about to come due. Many companies took advantage of historically low interest rates over the past decade, borrowing billions to fund growth, buy back stocks, or just maintain operations. But now, with rates significantly higher, they face a harsh reality: refinancing that debt is going to cost a lot more. Imagine this. A company that locked in a 3% interest rate a few years ago will now be looking at rates upwards of 7% or 8%. That's a massive difference when you're dealing with billions of dollars. What's particularly alarming is the timeline. A significant portion of this corporate debt is set to mature within the next few years. As companies are forced to refinance at these higher rates, their debt payments will balloon, cutting into profits and forcing tough decisions. Will they cut jobs? Will they sell off assets? These are real possibilities, and the ripple effects could be felt across the economy. We've already seen some companies struggle to make payments, and this trend is likely to grow as more debt reaches maturity. The consequences aren't just limited to big corporations. Small and mid-sized businesses, which don't have the same financial flexibility, are even more vulnerable. Many of these companies are the backbone of the U.S. economy, providing jobs and services to millions. If they can't manage their debt loads, it could lead to a wave of bankruptcies and layoffs. And speaking of vulnerability, the real estate market is facing its own challenges as interest rates impact housing affordability. The U.S. housing market is in a precarious position right now. With mortgage rates soaring above 7%, buying a home has become increasingly difficult for many Americans. The days of locking in a 3% mortgage are long gone, and now, prospective buyers are finding themselves priced out of the market. Picture this. Someone who could afford a $500,000 home a couple of years ago might now only qualify for a $300,000 home at these new rates. That's a huge drop in purchasing power, and it's keeping a lot of people on the sidelines. But it's not just buyers who are affected. Homeowners who locked in low rates are holding onto their properties because they don't want to give up those favorable terms. This has led to a shortage of homes for sale, further driving up prices. It's a catch-22. People can't afford to buy because prices and rates are too high, but those who already own don't want to sell. The result? The housing market is stuck in a stalemate, with fewer transactions and more frustration. First-time buyers, in particular, are feeling the pinch as they struggle to save for a down payment and face competition from investors. While this may seem like just another housing cycle, the long-term impact could be significant. As fewer homes are sold, the broader economy could slow, especially in industries tied to real estate like construction and home improvement. And with fewer refinancing opportunities, people who would typically use that extra cash to pay off debt or boost savings are now feeling the squeeze. So, while the real estate market tries to navigate these higher rates, we should keep an eye on how this will ripple through other areas of the economy. So, What are you going to do with all this information? Are you going to sit back and hope things work out on their own? Or are you going to take action? The truth is, waiting for the perfect moment is a trap. If you want to safeguard your future, you have to make moves now, before it's too late. What steps are you taking today to protect your finances, your family, and your peace of mind? It's time to stop relying on luck and start building a strategy that can withstand the storms ahead. Think about it. The people who thrive during tough times are the ones who plan for it. They don't leave their future to chance. Are you ready to be one of them? It starts with taking small, smart steps right now. Look at your finances, review your investments, and educate yourself on what's happening in the economy. The worst thing you can do is ignore the warning signs. Are you really going to wait until the last minute to react? Now is your chance to be proactive. Hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications, because the insights I'm sharing can make all the difference in the months to come. Don't miss out. Staying informed is your first line of defense. Let's navigate what's coming together.